Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm currently browsing this game cluelessly, which is honestly less stressful than dealing with the people in today's stories. I've got a collection of absolute disasters for you today, including a boss who fired the only guy who knew the passwords, a stepmom who tried to spend someone else's inheritance, and a neighbor who learned that electricity isn't free. So grab a snack, get comfortable, and let's witness the audacity together. Story 1, my new manager fired me to save money, so I charged him $200 an hour to fix the mess he created. I work in IT for a mid-sized logistics company. I was the sole system administrator, meaning I built the server infrastructure, managed the security, and wrote the custom scripts that kept our inventory system running. It was a lot of work, but I had everything automated perfectly. The owner of the company retired last year and passed the business down to his son, Kyle. Kyle is your typical business school graduate who thinks he knows everything about efficiency, but knows absolutely nothing about how things actually work. In his first month, Kyle started looking for budget cuts. He called me into his office and told me that he was restructuring the IT department. He said, "I've been looking at the logs and the system seems to run itself. I didn't see why we're paying you a full-time salary to sit around and watch a screen." I tried to explain that the reason the system runs itself is because I wrote the automation scripts that required daily maintenance and monitoring. I told him that if those scripts aren't updated or if a server hangs, the entire shipping line stops. Kyle laughed and said, "I think you're over-exaggerating your importance to negotiate a raise. It's a computer program. It doesn't need a babysitter. We're letting you go, effective immediately." I was stunned. I asked if there was going to be a transition period or if he wanted the admin passwords. He said, "We'll figure it out. Just leave your badge on the desk." So I did exactly what he asked. I left. I didn't sabotage anything. I'm a professional, but I also didn't leave any documentation for the custom encryption keys or the admin overrides because he didn't ask for them. I also disabled the notification alerts that went to my personal phone because, well, I didn't work there anymore. 3 days later, I was at home enjoying my unemployment when my phone started blowing up. It was Kyle. I let it go to voicemail. He called again and again. Finally, I picked up. He was frantic. "The shipping label printer is down, the inventory database is locked, and nobody can log into the server. You need to come back and fix this right now." I calmly reminded him that I was no longer an employee. He screamed, "I don't care. We are losing $10,000 an hour. Get your butt down here." I told him, "Kyle, I'm not an employee, but I am available as an independent consultant. My rate is $200 an hour, with a minimum retainer of 20 hours paid up front and a rush fee of $1,000. He went silent. Then he started swearing, threatening to sue me for holding the company hostage. I told him, "I'm not holding anything hostage. You fired the key holder without asking for the keys. Take the deal or figure it out yourself." He hung up. 2 hours later, I got a notification that $5,000 had been wired to my account. I drove down to the office, walked past a sweating, pale-faced Kyle, typed in 3 commands to restart the services, and reset the passwords. It took me about 15 minutes. I walked out with $5,000 in my pocket for 15 minutes of work. Kyle had to explain to the board why they lost a whole day of shipping and why he had to pay an external consultant a premium rate. Last I heard, they hired a managed service provider to replace me, which cost them double my original salary. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, more expensive than a cheap boss. Kyle thought he was cutting fat, but he actually cut the jugular. That $200 an hour rate is simply the tax for stupidity. Story 2, my stepmom booked her daughter's wedding venue using my inheritance money. I canceled it the morning of the wedding. My mom passed away when I was 22 and left me a significant inheritance. I've been smart with it, invested most of it, and didn't tell many people how much there was. My dad remarried a woman named Brenda a few years ago. Brenda has a daughter, Tiffany, who is the definition of a golden child. Brenda and I tolerate each other, but she's always made comments about how unfair it is that I have money from my mom while Tiffany struggles. Tiffany doesn't work. She tries to be an influencer. When Tiffany got engaged, Brenda sat me down and told me that, as her stepsister, it was my duty to contribute to the wedding. I told her I'd get them a nice gift, maybe a kitchen mixer. Brenda looked at me like I was crazy and said, "We expect you to cover the venue and catering. It's about $25,000. You can afford it, and family helps family." I laughed and said absolutely not. I told her explicitly, I am not paying for Tiffany's wedding. I thought that was the end of it. But apparently Brenda is delusional. A month before the wedding, I got a confirmation email from a luxury hotel venue. It said, "Thank you for your payment schedule." Brenda had somehow found an old bank statement of mine in my dad's office, got my account routing number, and set up an ACH transfer to pay the venue. She had forged my signature on the contract. I was seeing red. I went to the bank immediately. I filed a fraud report, froze my accounts, and the bank reversed the pending transaction. But here is where I decided to be petty. I didn't tell Brenda I caught her. I called the venue directly. I explained that the account used was stolen and that the signature was forged. The venue manager was horrified. He asked if I wanted to press charges. I said, "Not yet, but I want you to cancel the booking immediately." The venue canceled the contract due to non-payment and fraud. Brenda, assuming the payment had gone through and I was just too spineless to fight it, continued planning. She was bragging to everyone that she had secured this amazing location. Fast forward to the morning of the wedding. I didn't go, obviously, but I heard what happened from my cousin. Brenda, Tiffany, the groom, and 150 guests showed up at the hotel. The doors to the ballroom were locked. When Brenda went to the front desk screaming, the manager came out with security. He loudly informed her in front of the guests that the reservation had been canceled weeks ago due to attempted credit card fraud, and that they needed to vacate the premises immediately or the police would be called. Tiffany had a meltdown in the lobby. The groom's family was mortified. Brenda tried to call me 50 times, leaving voicemails screaming that I had ruined everything. I sent her one text. I told you I wasn't paying for it. Next time, don't commit a felony to throw a party. My dad finally grew a spine and is staying in a hotel while he figures out the divorce. Brenda is currently under investigation by the bank. The fact that she stole the routing number? That isn't just entitlement, that is straight up criminal activity. Imagine showing up to your own wedding and getting evicted by security. That is a level of embarrassment you never recover from. Story 3. My neighbor stole my electricity to power his hot tub, so I destroyed his plumbing. I live in a row of townhouses where our backyards are separated by low fences. My neighbor, Dave, is a nightmare. He's loud, messy, and always looking for a shortcut. I have an outdoor weatherproof outlet on my back patio that I use for my electric grill and leaf blower. A few months ago, I noticed my electric bill spiked. It was usually around 120, but it jumped to 350. I thought maybe my HVAC was broken. Then, one night, I came home late and saw an orange extension cord running from my outdoor outlet under the fence and into Dave's yard. I climbed up on a chair to look over the fence. Dave had bought a massive, inflatable hot tub and was running the heater and pump 24/7 using my electricity. I was furious. I pulled the plug and threw the cord back over the fence. The next day, Dave knocked on my door. He didn't apologize. He said, "Hey man, you unplugged my heater. The water got cold. I need you to leave it plugged in. My breaker keeps tripping if I use my own outlet." I stared at him. I said, "Dave, you are stealing hundreds of dollars of electricity from me." "No." He rolled his eyes and said, "Don't be such a tightwad. We're neighbors." I installed a lockbox over my outlet. 2 days later, I came home and found the lockbox smashed open with a hammer and the cord plugged back in. Okay, gloves off. I happen to know that hot tub pumps are very sensitive to voltage fluctuations. And I also know that my breaker box allows me to switch that specific outdoor circuit from 110 volts standard to a 220 volt line because it was originally wired for a heavy duty dryer by the previous owner. I went to the hardware store and bought a 220V receptacle. I swapped out the outlet. It looks exactly the same, but it delivers double the power. I waited until I heard the hum of the hot tub pump running next door. Then I went to my breaker box and flipped the switch. There was a loud pop, followed by a horrible grinding noise, and then silence from Dave's yard. Then I heard Dave screaming, "What the hell?" followed by the sound of rushing water. Apparently, when the pump motor exploded from the voltage overload, it cracked the plastic casing of the filter system. The hot tub proceeded to drain 300 gallons of water directly onto Dave's patio and, crucially, down into his finished basement through his sliding door track. I switched the breaker back off, swapped the outlet back to the standard one, and locked it up. Dave tried to blame me, claiming I surged him, but he couldn't prove anything because, legally, he wasn't supposed to be plugged into my house in the first place. Admitting he was plugged in would be admitting to theft. He had to pay for a new pump and thousands of dollars in water damage repairs for his basement. He hasn't touched my outlet since. That is what we call the shock and awe tactic. Is it dangerous? Maybe. Is it effective? Absolutely. Dave learned that if you play with someone else's power, you're eventually going to get burned. That's all the drama I can handle for today. If you enjoyed these stories, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And seriously, check your outdoor outlets. You never know who might be running a hot tub on your dime. See you in the next one.